All right, so good night. This is Marcus once again doing another interview with regards to football and getting football information out there. So tonight I have with me sports agent Dennis Chin. And again, just off the bat, thank you very much for doing this. I know it takes a lot of time out of your evening to do something like this, so I really, really appreciate this. And I'd just like to give the floor to you so you can kind of explain who you are and what you actually do. So if you could go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, I'm Dennis Chin. I'm Jamaican born, so I'm a Caribbean as well. But I'm now the president of global football for Young Money APA Sports. It's an agency founded by the rapper Lil Wayne, entertainment icon, and Adi Van Gontard, who is the heir of Anheuser-Busch, which is Budweiser's, Stella, and those beverages. Yeah, and I'm a FIFA licensed sports agent, football agent. But before that, I was also a professional footballer as well.
Okay.
So so played and then took the path of being an agent instead of being a coach or reporter or something along those lines.
Right, right, right. So okay, so why did you take that path? What made you decide, all right, an agent is what I want to do afterwards?
So at first, I had no interest of being an agent. As a player, I think everyone in the football atmosphere, right? You start off as a fan before anything else,
Yeah.
and as a player, when I was a professional, I just thought of agents as just like kind of they're not the best reputations, you know how I was saying, just kind of leeching off the football ecosystem.
Yeah.
So I would say that it wasn't like what I went out to do at first.
Right.
In fact, my background was always, after I did the schooling aspect, Chinese background, Chinese Jamaican background, school first, you know.
Right, right,
So I
right.
went I went the college route first,
Yeah.
and realized that I was decent enough to continue trying to play, and then I was lucky to get seen in a small tryout by at the time the Orlando City coach, who was Adrian Heath, which was an Everton legend. He played at Everton, Man City, Espanol, and he
Right.
saw me play, and saw something in me, and I got a chance, and never looked back. And then, throughout my career, obviously, just like any Caribbean, I didn't just want to play in the US. I wanted to play in Europe and the usual dream. So I
Yeah.
took those steps to play overseas, and then my background was always into trying to figure out why and how I made those steps, right? And how I could probably replicate those because I had three younger brothers, try to see if I could help them.
Right.
Um, and so I really focused on the technical side and coaching and while I was playing.
Yeah.
And at the end of my career, I became a player assistant coach in the USL with Richmond Kickers. Now that's still in the USL.
Right.
And I got a chance to, kind of see it from the other side in professional coaching and not just being a player. And then I realized that wasn't for me. So I
Okay.
was like, all right, everyone wants to be a coach. And for me personally, I just realized that there was no security in being a professional coach, right? Like, regardless of how good of a coach you are, things can go wrong. You can lose 5 games in a row. You could be sacked, right?
True. True. True.
That's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is that you kind of focus on like 13 players at a time. You have a roster of 25, a roster of 30, and
Yeah.
you're trying to win games. That's the key at a professional level. You're not really trying to develop as much as win games,
Yeah.
and it really didn't like sit too well with me.
Hmm.
So throughout that time, I was trying to figure out, what was going on. COVID ended up hitting, and it wasn't the same, right?
Right.
So I ended up speaking to a lot of my um, ex teammates that were already transitioned. Some becoming a coach, some were GMs, different parts of the industry. And then
Right.
throughout that time, my own agent, who I became very close with, who was my second agent. I had a big agency, and I ended up with a smaller agent. Said, "Hey, listen, you should try to think about being an agent, and I'm like, no chance. But I was already helping him get
Right.
players.
Yeah.
So he's like, you obviously have an eye for players, and you're helping them get opportunities. Like you're already good at it. Like why not try it? So
Right.
then that's when I really started thinking about it along those lines, and then I I decided because my wife is also a professional player as well. She played the
Okay.
U.S. national team
Nice.
and everything. So I'm a
Yeah.
pretty football family, and we're trying to say, all right, it's time to settle down a bit and be in a more location, central location. And I
Yeah.
realized that hey, if I did do this agent thing, then I had a lot more flexibility to work with who I want to work with.
Right.
I get to not only help players, that was what I wanted to do into the beginning. I could help
Hmm.
any player that I wanted, not
Right.
just what a club needed at a time or whatever it is on the club side. So yeah, I think that's really what pulled me towards it is the fact that I could be remote. I can go to games just like any scout or any coach and find young and old talent
Yeah.
if I wanted to,
Yeah.
and help them get those contracts instead of just being on the club side and being kind of focused on one specific type of profile and something like that. So all those things is what kind of pushed me in. And obviously, I could have probably joined another agency and worked under someone, but I wanted to do it myself, and I kind of went out and yeah, now looking back at it, it sounds crazy. But I went on to do it on my own, and it turned out decent in the end.
Nice. 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 So, me being from Trinidad and Tobago, I would kind of want to know which players do you actually represent from Trinidad and Tobago right now?
Oof. All right. Yeah, I think I have more Trinis than probably any other nationality at this point.
Okay, nice.
And this is because it's crazy. I played with Kevin Molino for 4 years actually.
Okay, okay,
Nice.
nice.
So that is like one of my brothers.
Right, 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 right.
Well, when we went through Orlando City together throughout the time. So
Yeah,
that's that and obviously being Jamaican, I was always used to the history of Trinidad and the players, and always respected players there. So
right.
when I started in the agency world, I obviously asked them. I was like, "Who's good? Who should I be looking at?" Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this point, I think we have Jesse Williams,
Right,
Real Gill, Michelle Punangron,
right.
Nathaniel James,
Mm.
Rion Moore.
Okay, okay.
So yeah, like I would say 5 or 6 national. Oh, and Denzel Smith.
Denzel Smith, yeah.
Yes. So yeah, we have around 6 senior national team players, and my goal is to help as many as possible,
Right.
right? It's it's different for us for the Caribbean side and our agency right now. We're looking at the top of the top, but when it comes to the Caribbean players, I know that they have value more than it's being shown.
Yeah,
So I know I can help them, and I really want these guys to do so well that more and more clubs look into Trinidad for players. That is my goal. I mean, that's my goal for the entire Caribbean. Is that I think our talents are undervalued.
right.
Um, Immensely undervalued, and I'm on a mission to prove that based on how they do outside. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? As you can see, look at Levi Garcia, right?
yeah, yeah.
If you give them the opportunity, they're gonna shine. So that is my hope. So yeah, those are ones that I have right now.
Okay, okay, awesome. Um, so do you only do like in the US, or do you have like connections outside of the US also that you could potentially place players?
Yeah, my goal was never to dominate one specific market.
Right.
Just because as a player, I played in 4 different countries, right? So I know the effect that had on my career, and I wanted when I came out to do this role and this to have an agency, I wanted a global agency. I wanted an agency that if a guy didn't feel like he fit this style of play in the US, then he can play in Afghanistan if he wanted to.
Right,
I
right.
went out and made a global network. My partner from the get go lives in Switzerland.
Okay.
He was my ex-teammate as well. He played at Orlando, so with me. So that's our secondary base. So we have players in Europe, mainly in Europe and the US.
Okay.
But the biggest thing is we're very US focused right now. Not one, because that's where my home base is, and that's
Right.
where I have I know a lot of people. But two, because I feel like the players from the Caribbean can use that easily as a first step
Right.
culturally,
Right.
comparatively to just throwing someone in Cyprus, or you know what I mean, or or Latvia, for
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's really a good platform nowadays, especially that the pay wise is secure. Um, it's closer enough to the Caribbean, especially for the Caribbean players, that they can go back home to national team games and whatnot. And
Yeah.
also everyone is starting to look in the US for talent. So in all leagues, not only just in MLS. So the platform is there. So I think that's why we kind of focus a lot of the young guys over here. But there are, I mean, I've taken a kid straight from Jamaica to Serbia in the Super League. Um,
Okay.
I've taken kids to different places
Yeah.
if if I feel like they'll survive and do well.
Right.
There's no point of throwing people in Belgium or throwing people all those places if I don't feel like they're gonna stick, because then
Yeah.
they'll be back home, and you know how that goes, right?
Right.
You
Right.
really get a second chance sometimes. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's fair and that makes sense because the US is probably the biggest market and closest to us in the Caribbean anyway. Um. So how does the process go with your agency? If I'm a player who at the age what is I should probably start here. What is the ideal age player that you are looking for? Should start with that here.
Depends. We want the best now, right?
Right.
When I was before my agency got we were acquired by Young Money, um, I was more open, right? Because we're a young, we're an upcoming agency, and I'm like, I looked for a lot of value, like I said, where people weren't seeing value.
Right.
But right now, we have a lot of value where people that didn't see value. So we have we have Real Gill in there is making a name, and blah blah
Yeah.
blah, and Denzel that we, a lot of players that we've brought out, right?
Hmm.
But now our agency's at a point that we're looking at Premier League guys and top league
Right.
guys. That so when you see some of the announcements you'll see in the future, we're going to be top league players. Now, if you're not at those levels, our youngest player right now is 15. Right, we have a
Okay.
15-year-old that we took from Mount Pleasant Academy in Jamaica, right?
Yes.
And he's the youngest ever player for Toronto FC that's ever signed a pro contract,
Okay. Okay.
and he transferred in MLS. And yeah, he's with the next pro team right now. Already made his debut and already scored a goal. That's the reason why we chose him at that age, is because he's ready right now
Right.
at that
Yeah.
age, right? Not everyone is going to be ready at 15, but the younger that we find the talent that we feel is a top five league talent,
Yeah.
is when we're going to look at them. So it's no real age group, but the younger the better. The reason why I say the younger the better is because we can now create the right habits in players.
Okay.
Whereas we get a current Premier League guy, a current Serie A guy, a lot of those habits are already made. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
time. They're already making a couple mil. You can't really tell them a lot, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're in
Yeah.
that journey from the beginning.
Mhm.
Um, some people are more open than others. That's the ones we look for, but like for the most part, you can't. Whereas the younger guys, we can create the right habits, right? Like,
Okay.
um, and I think the right habits is what gives you a career. Honestly, yeah, you can have all the talent, and we won't even talk to you if you don't have the talent.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But to last and not be back home,
Hmm.
that takes a lot of professionalism, taking care of your body, all these kind of things that we try to put into play when they're younger, because they're
Okay.
open to it. We A lot of agents, in general, are transactional, as you know. Like,
Hmm.
it's really like, oh, that guy's good, I'm trying to get him to a club, and then I get my commission and I go along my way. We don't really work like that. We are like every step of the way kind of people. Like we take care of everything. So
So that was going to be my next
next
question, and
question.
that's why I led with this one first, because that's what I wanted to know. Me as a 15 or 16 year old who, again, straight out of Trinidad, don't really know much outside of Trinidad, and I come to your agency.
Mhm.
What should I expect, or what should my parents expect? That's
Yeah,
why I was kind of going with that. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, at these ages, you have so much to learn, right? And
Yeah.
my biggest thing, and this is why when we spoke about having an interview, I'm open to it.
Hmm.
I'm like the last person to not tell people what's going on in the industry. So the first thing is education,
Right.
right? I'm really open to what everything's about, what I do, what I don't do, what I can do, what I can't do. And a lot of people think, oh, you just get an agent, you're gonna make it. No, I'm only good as a player,
True.
honestly,
True.
right? So I can have all the commercial and all the social media and all that kind of stuff and know the Arsenal scouts, but I can't get you to Arsenal unless you're an Arsenal level player,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So so that's the first thing. We're only as good as the talent.
Hmm.
So we don't do miracles. Like I can't just take a kid from bottom of the streets and put him in the top unless he has that level, and I just see that he has that level and nobody
Right.
else.
Yeah.
So when he does come, we educate the family, we educate the player on what kind of pathway we expect from him. Right. First of all, right, you're 15, 16, you're not leaving Trinidad until you're 18 unless you have a passport that is Canada, US, European passport, or something like that. That's just a FIFA rule. You can't
Right.
leave. So the 15-year-old we had that we moved from Mount Pleasant, his family had moved before to Canada, and he got Canadian residency early. No one knew about it, but when we spoke to the family, we are like, "Oh, this looks interesting,"
Yeah.
because I didn't have to wait now till he's 18 to move him,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, but if you're 15 in Trinidad and you don't have that, we're gonna have to make a plan for you in Trinidad.
Yeah.
So, for our agency, we have a head of high performance, for example. I don't know
Mhm.
any other agency that has that. Which basically, I realized that we had some injuries. We had some injuries with two MLS players, young players this year
Right.
that we didn't see coming. That we're on the path of going to big things this year, and we didn't really see it coming. So
Mhm.
we see value on someone that can be a liaison with the club and the player and say, hey, listen, this is what you need to be doing daily. This is your
Mhm.
daily workouts when you even when you're training, when you're not training. How's your diet? How's your nutrition? What are you eating? Create a food log. No, you're not supposed to be eating this. No, you're supposed to be eating that. Blah blah blah
Right.
blah. This person is gonna be on you, right? He wants to, even if he's not there, he wants to see how you squat. If by how you squat, then he can see your ankle mobility, your hip mobility, all these things, because they lead to injuries down the line if you don't take care of them. These
Right.
are like very detailed stuff that you're not getting unless you're at a top club. But we
Mhm.
provide our players that because it's an investment for us. That because that player is an investment for us as well. If we
Yes.
don't keep them healthy, then we're losing as well, right? So
Hmm.
it's in
Hmm.
our best interest to make sure that player gets to the top. So that's one of the first things. The second things is we speak to our players, some people every day, but some mostly weekly or bi-weekly.
Hmm.
Check up on our players. We have a full-time analyst on staff. So if our players saying, "Oh man, I'm not good at running behind," my coach says I'm too stagnant, blah 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 blah. That person is there to create clips based on your games and give you
Yeah.
feedback and blah 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 blah. Like I said, don't know a lot of agencies that have that either. So we have someone that they can speak to about anything tactical that will relay. Your coach could say, "Hey, I need to do this," and we work with the clubs as well to make
Hmm.
sure they're good. So we have that. We're constantly speaking to us because a lot of my job is to be a psychologist, honestly.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Players come to me for everything. Oh, my coach is not playing me. Oh, my light from my fridge stopped working. What do I do? You know what I mean? I
Right.
got a visa appointment, but like, you know what I mean? Like we're there for a lot of small things that people don't see. There's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes what no one sees. Everyone just sees the done deal and guys hold up jerseys and
Yeah.
oh yeah, he scores a goal, but like between that, you don't even know what's going on, right?
True.
Like
True.
someone
True.
can have bed bugs in their bugs and they're telling me to call it the team admin and talk to it. You never know.
Yeah.
So we're really there for all those challenges, especially for the internationals that are coming to different countries.
Yeah.
Um, it's a big transition, culturally, food wise. You know what I mean? Like like for example, like when Rian Gill moved to his new apartment, right? We had to make sure he had to get like a new bed, linens, sheets, everything. So I had to set him up with an Amazon account, right?
Right.
And like so it can be he has 2 day shipping and all that kind of stuff. And like these are things maybe people don't think about when you sign a contract. Well, yeah, you got paid, but what are you going to do with that pay? Are you going to do? Is there a plan for them financially? I always tell my players, oh, you need to save this much. You get this much, blah blah blah. You want to have a trip after the end of the season? Put this much away.
Right.
All these things are what you can expect from us. Like I said, it's not exclusive only to us for all of these things because there's
Hmm.
agents that do that. There's got
Yeah.
other good agencies, right? But that's just what you get from our side.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Um. So how? Okay. I mean, I know how I get in contact with you, and I could always take the information and put it. But what should I do? Should I reach out to you via email, or should I call you, or should I send you
Yeah.
my tapes? How should I go about doing that as a young player?
So it's very rarely that we find a player that reached out to us that we actually take, but it does happen.
Okay.
Right? Because we usually find you before you find us,
Right.
like, right? Where it's not like we're not looking, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, when it comes to that aspect, it's usually through email or social. Sometimes the players send us their transfer market or link or and which is their CV basically as a pro,
Yeah.
and their video, and then we kind of take a look as a Caribbean player, like I said, at this time we're looking at top. So if you're not even in the national team, we're we can't really help you at this point.
Okay.
Because our agencies and like level now, we don't work in trials. So if we find a player, we're not just sending him to trials and hope you fit. Like, a lot of agents, let
Yeah.
me send you to Portugal. Like, no,
Right.
we have a plan. So usually you're going to sign a contract. We
Right.
get
Right.
you, you sign a contract. We're not throwing you to some place to just have a random trial, right?
Hmm.
Maybe in the past that's how we were because we didn't have the pull that we have now, or we didn't have
Right.
the abilities. But yeah, if we have you now, like we're sending to a place that we feel like you're gonna sign a contract. If you have to go somewhere to do it, we're either gonna get the club to pay for it for you, or we're gonna pay for it for you. You're not playing
Okay.
spending your money, right? So
Mhm.
if we're not spending any money, we got to know it's you're the right person, right? Like
Yeah.
we're not
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Yeah.
to do that for everyone. So yeah, it will. It's rare, but every now and then there's a person that sends us an email, and we see it, and we're like, wow, this person is better than we thought. Let's take a deeper look, and then we take a deeper look, and we like him. We feel like he can
Mhm.
help. Now, sometimes the years are better than others.
Right.
For example, since we're so in deep in the American windows, the winter is the best time because that's time everyone and their mom are asking us as a on the club side for
Right.
players. You have a nine, you have a nine, you have a nine, and a lot of times our roster is filled. Like meaning, like our players that we have are they already have teams. So now we're
Okay.
gonna be like, all right, we want to do business with that team. We want to help that team. Now we're team agents at the end of the day, right?
Right.
So, for example, Bobby Murphy, who's a coach of Portland Hearts, as soon as he got that job, he called me. He's like, "Hey, listen, I have this new job in the USL. You have any players for me?" And I sent him Michel Punagara,
Right.
first ever
Yeah.
signing. That was his first ever signing,
First
right?
first signing for the club.
Right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't reach out to him, for that. They reached out to me, and I was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
listen, I know Bobby. Bobby loves Caribbean players. Bobby's a white guy that played in Jamaica. Like that's rare. One of you white guys from America played in JPL. Like,
Right. Right.
right? So
Right.
I knew he could handle a Caribbean player, and I'm like, hey, listen, I feel like he can help these players. Boom,
Right.
that's how Nati signed. You know what I mean? Like that's how it is. So sometimes the clubs will come to us,
Hmm.
and then you're already in our system because you reached out and you put your highlights in, and maybe we didn't see it then, but then a club reached out and like, hey, listen, this player would be actually good for us. And it's kind of how it went with Nati. Like Nati, I saw Nathaniel. I tried to get Nathaniel James in 2021. I saw him
Okay.
real young,
Yeah.
right? And he went and going off to Europe or something at the time, and then he ended up signing Mount Pleasant. I kind of didn't really think about it. And then
Yeah.
he came to us in I would say, maybe November, December again, and kind of reached out and spoke to me because through Jesse and Real,
Right.
and then nothing really happened. And then Bobby was talking to me, and he's like, "Hey, I'm looking for a 9 or 9.5," and I was like, "Wait. I remember Nathaniel had reached out, so
Right.
I
Right.
sent him
Right.
Nathaniel stuff, and then they ended up buying him from Mount Pleasant. The rest is history, and he's already scored,
Yeah.
right? So these kind of things happen. Sometimes we make the connections after, and maybe we didn't go out there and pursue him at that point, but it happens. So the best time for us when we get the most teams asking is usually that November, December, January region, when it's that pool of players. Because in the US right now, there's so many new clubs popping up every year that
Right.
there's the demand for players is high, good players especially.
Right.
So that is the best time. You're reaching out to me now, like you're reaching out for Europe, and if you're reaching out for Europe, you got to be a top national team guy. You got to be,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like you're not gonna just jump into the prem, right? So yeah, so those are usually good times, I would say, to do
Okay.
it, and it's usually email or social media. You find us on social media, and and you can send it there, and we look at it. But we try. We're probably one of the only people that do that. We try to always respond. And some people hit me up on LinkedIn, they hit me up on email, and they hit me up on Facebook, but so I respond to we respond to one of them though.
Right. 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 Yeah.
But like
Which
we
which
always try
makes
to
sense.
respond if we see it, we try
Yeah.
to respond unlike a lot of people, so you know where you stand, right? Even if it's a no, which is most times gonna know because we just don't have the bandwidth for everyone.
Okay. 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 Fair. So I want us to go back. You say you worked with Kevin Molino.
Hmm.
Kevin Molino is currently playing in Trinidad. He's
Hmm.
captain of Defense Force, who basically ran away with the league because the league almost finished and they ran away with it. Have you been, I mean, you probably don't have to say names, yes or no. Have you been in contact with him and have you seen any of our young players playing in the league that you tell yourself, hey, I want to reach out to this person or I want to know a little bit more about this person? Has there been anything like that?
Yeah. No, I mean, Kevin's my boy, so I speak to Kevin every now and then.
Right.
He's a great role model for anyone that's coming out of Trinidad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I've seen and a fantastic player, like one of the best that I've ever played with, and I can honestly say that.
Mhm.
So yeah. I mean, because of Jesse Williams right now is back in Trinidad for a bit, right?
Yeah.
Because of Rian Moore is back in Trinidad for a bit. But because of then, I see every now and then I see some games, right?
Okay. Okay. Fair.
Um, so and it's really random because if I'm looking at top league games and I watch some TT Pro League, I'm not even from Trinidad, but I just always try to watch different leagues and different levels because I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to that, but I'm obsessive with seeing, with comparing and seeing how I can, if I can see something that I see flashes of things that could translate elsewhere,
Right.
right? So some of the things I know that other people look at, I might not look at. Like you can see the most skill and blah 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 in the TT Pro League. Probably not going to do that even in USL League One, right?
Right. Right. Right.
But
Right.
there's a guy out there that's making all the right decisions, what may not be as flashy. But I'm
Hmm.
like, wow, if this guy gets in a good environment, that guy could be great. Like,
Right.
so it's not just, but I also have a thing that if you're not dominating in these leagues and
Hmm.
showing yourself with consistency here, why do you deserve that chance over a guy that is? You know
True.
what I mean?
True. True.
So it's not like I make the rewards or whatever. Right? It's my, but like that's just how I look at it. So yeah, there's some kids that have been put to my attention, because I rely on the people that know the leagues the best. So there's guys in
Yeah.
training that always that will say, hey, look out for this kid, look out for Michael Chaves, or you know what I mean, or something
Right.
like
Right.
that. Right? So I or Kareem Thomas, right? So like, yeah, I know about the names of some local kids there, and
Okay.
if, like I said, if I can't help them, but I know they're helpable, I'm gonna put
Hmm.
them with someone that can. Like that's just how I am, right? Like I don't look at in the Caribbean of making me personally making money off it. I look at it as access and building the sport and the game, right? Because one guy in the Prem could make me tons more than one kid in the Caribbean will make me, right?
True,
But it
true,
doesn't
true,
give
true.
me the same reward, right? So to be able to help guys that's like me that was coming from situations that I've come from is way more rewarding.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, and I understand that. I appreciate that. So you actually called one of the names of the guys I was talking about, Michael Shafes. I speak to him every now and again, and I know currently they're working on doing highlight reel and that kind of thing. So I know that they are making strides to really look at going outside of Trinidad also, which is fair because they
Mhm.
have the quality to be outside of Trinidad. Um, Trying to think about if I had any other questions at this point, or if you kind of covered everything, which I think you kind of did. So do you
Experience at covering everything, man.
do you have anything else that again a word of advice or something that you would give to a young player or somebody who desires to go pro?
Yeah. I mean, for me, and I tell this to everyone, right? Um, Everyone wants to be a pro.
Hmm.
Everyone thinks they're good. Right? And so you can say, you can believe it deep down, you can be like, give me the chance, give me that. Just somebody need to give him a chance. But that's not really how it works. On this end of it,
Hmm.
I would help everyone if I could. I think a lot of agents would help anyone, and a lot of coaches will help anyone if they could.
Hmm.
Right? That's why you have this platform here to help people. But you have to help yourself. And how do you do that? One, by now we're in the information age. We're in the ages that when I was young, we didn't have access to seeing training sessions of Bayern Munich when on YouTube when I was on, or hearing lectures from coaches or TED Talks, or becoming a student of the game to this level,
Right.
and really seeing breakdowns of games and not just watching to see some goals or some skills.
Hmm.
Um, so I would be, if I'm someone or a kid that wants to get out, or a father or mother that wants to help their kid out, I would start there and just increase the level.
Hmm.
Because I hate to say, but as Caribbean players, we're already behind, right? We don't have the best facilities. We don't have the best coaches all the time, right? That are getting all the aspects. So we're not gonna be all there tactically.
Hmm.
But what can we control? We can control physically and our technical aspects.
Right. Right.
So there's no excuse for those two, right? Because once you're in the streets and everything, your technical aspects and your skill level should be high,
Yeah.
playing on these surfaces and compared to like even the best surfaces. You have that
Yeah.
opportunity right there. And I think you just have to dominate where you are. It's all good to be like, oh, looking above and I need to get to Europe, but like focus on where you are there, because you
Yeah.
can't control what other people see, or in you, or blah blah blah. And another thing is to have accountability, meaning that it's never the coach's fault all the time, or is this
Right.
politics. It drives me crazy sometimes. Yes, there is the very rare times where someone's just against you,
Hmm.
but I've yet to see a coach or a manager somewhere that won't play their best player
True.
for no
True.
reason,
True. Yeah.
right? Like if you're that good, you're gonna play. You're gonna get an opportunity. It's
Hmm.
just facts. Now, if you keep it close, we're human beings. We're
Hmm.
gonna have some favoritism there. If you dribble like Robinho, and then there's another guy that is just a brute player, and it's me taking a chance, you're just the same kind of you're doing the same. I'm gonna choose the Robinho guy because I like those kind of,
Right.
I
Right.
like those
Right.
kind of players better, right? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
the brute guy is gonna be like, hey, but I'm doing just as good as this guy. We're like, because you're too close.
Yeah.
But if you're that brute guy and you're scoring 5 extra goals or assists, and you're both playing center forward, and he's this guy's just dribbling around. Like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna choose that guy because he gives my team a better chance to winning.
True,
So
true, true,
if
true.
you're ever in a portion that you're not getting chosen and you feel it's not fair, step your game up. That's the only way you're gonna ever get chosen, and
True.
that's actually in your control. And once we take control and not blame circumstances, oh, it's because I'm in Trinidad. I was in England, then I'll be better. If I was like, we can't control that, right?
Right,
And I lived it. Kevin lived it. Like these, like no one expected me to be a player,
right.
right? It's not like I was in any national team. I didn't touch a national team till I got a call up way later, and I
Hmm.
didn't even end up going. I didn't even make it. So
Right.
it's so at the end of the day, you just gotta have the right attitude and take it for where it is,
Hmm.
and know that it's a 0.001% that's really gonna get a career and make it. So you have to take every opportunity because it's luck too.
Yeah.
If you could be the best player week in and week out, and everyone's like that's the best player, and I come and watch, and you kick your left foot every time, and you don't. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that, right?
Right,
So
right,
you
right.
have to take your opportunities as well. So that's the biggest thing for me. I think we focus too much on the things we can't control, which is how big I am, or what I mean. Who's going to be choosing me? Oh, I don't like this coach. I don't like this coach. I got to move teams because this coach doesn't like me. Instead of like taking up the challenge and actually getting better.
Yeah.
Um, so the excuses, things you won't work at the highest level, so you might as well cut it out from now.
True, true, true. That is, I guess, that circle back to the professionalism that you were talking about at the start. Yeah.
So yeah, one of the biggest things that, for us, like I said, like we make decisions and we can't know what we can try to inform and make the best decisions possible, right? As an agent, I'm there to help you navigate the
Mhm.
world, right? I don't make those decisions for you. I'm gonna
Right.
say, hey, listen, this is what I feel, and I'm gonna tell you why. And if we all chose it and you go there and you stink it up, right? We should be blaming you,
Correct.
but our at the end of the day, I only can control what I can control. So I'm gonna be like, hey, listen, maybe I didn't give you the right information. So I'm gonna look at what I did wrong, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not
Okay.
gonna just look at you and be like, oh man, you should have played better. No, I'm gonna look at, hey, how could I have helped you and guided you in a better, so you had a better mindset, that you were more prepared,
Okay.
right? So as you as a player need to be like, all right, well, I heard all these things. How could I have done better, instead of just be like, oh, well, it's just because the coach didn't like me.
Yeah.
And then now we none of us can do anything about that. So might as well go back home then, right? So that's the biggest thing I think is that the footballers in general, we lack accountability. I mean, I think a lot of people in life do, but footballers and sports, because we have such a finite amount of time that we can play, that we just
Yeah.
rush in sometimes, and we get really emotional. But sometimes if we take that step back and look at what we can control,
Mhm.
realize that it's more than you think.
Okay. Okay. Fair. So I just want to say thanks because you gave us a lot of information. I know when I put this out there, I have a lot of comments and people talking about it. So I really hope that it reaches the right people, reaches the right ears, right eyes, so we get the information out there. So honestly, I just want to say thanks, Dennis. I appreciate this. And again, I really, really thank you for doing this. You didn't have to, but you were gracious enough to do it. So thanks very much. And
Yeah,
I hope
no
that
problem.
people reach out to you. I will get the contact information. I will put it in the on my YouTube page also, so people can see the information and how to get to you.
Yeah, no problem. And like I said, I'm here for the advice and the aspect of helping anyone that wants to know more about the industry. Is I'm not a gatekeeper of it, right? So
Right.
if I know something, I'm going to say it, because at the end of the day, I think we can all do well in it. I think it's not something that's overly complicated. I just think you just have to work hard and put yourself in the right position.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, and do enjoy your rest of your night. I really
Me
appreciate
too.
this.
Me too.
Yeah, man.